Good evening and what's up, everybody? Hex Misha here. Welcome to Hex Grassroots number 23 with special guest Dip Kitcher, PhD. World's first, our first time we have a guest for a second time, and we will talk about Stockholm, Eric Wall, the current Hex Dip, Maximus, of course, expanding the Hex economy, a great thing. And as always, before we get the guest here on stream, I will welcome my co-host, Meister Hex. How are you doing tonight?
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everybody around the world, to all hexicans, to all pulsechans, and the ones that are about to become one of these. Thank you, Misha. I'm doing very well. Happy to be here with you today. And I'm looking forward to speak again to Dr. or Dipcatcher. Maybe there was a plagiat in his PhD. I think he removed it. Let's ask him later. But I'm looking forward. He's very solid, and he's also technical, so this is always good.
Always good to talk to an actual developer. And we had some questions in our last stream that we couldn't answer, so now we get the chance, and it's always good to talk a developer. And like you said, he's very chill and collected, so I think we will have a good time with him as we did last time.
100%. And last time, the last stream was epic. We had a very special guest from Poland. So
and shout out to the Polish Hex community. We never saw so many active commenters, comments during the stream. All the support, our best stream so far, by far. So dziękuję, and that was awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Meister, what do you think? Shall we just get Dipcatcher on the stream and talk with him?
Let's not beat around the bush, Misha. You're right. Let's bring him on.
And here is the Dipcatcher. Good evening. How are you doing?
How's it going, guys?
Glad to be back.
I think, Reva, we have to say good morning, right?
Yeah, it's morning where I am. It's evening for you guys, so good day, y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good to have you here. It's been a while. I think the last time you were our fourth guest, it was like November 2021. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things happened in between. So we're happy you joining us today.
Yeah. The time has just flown right by.
That's right.
I can imagine. But maybe let's start with the recent things. Dipcatchers, did you have a chance to watch the live debate between Eric Wall and Richard Hart?
I watched like the first 30 minutes. I haven't finished watching it yet. The sound is kind of bad, and I was just kind of busy with some stuff. But so I haven't completed the full debate yet. Probably this weekend is when I'll finish watching that. But yeah, what did you guys think about it?
Yeah, I think, or maybe Misha, if you would like to jump in.
I honestly didn't see it yet. I missed the stream. I think, Meister, you said that Motley was streaming it. So I didn't had a chance yet to see it. What I did see was that the girls that did a podcast with him last time, Oh Here We Go, the two girls, they flew into Stockholm and they were live with Richard Hart driving in the Bentley top down. That looked cool. The location looked cool. The suits looked cool. Even Eric Wall, I have to give kudos to him. He looked fine, but I did not see nothing of the debate. Meister, maybe you can tell us.
Yeah, I saw part of it, especially the beginning. I mean, Eric Wall is a good debater. Some points were a little bit, I have to say, a little bit pointless regarding, I don't know, this accusation that Richard Hart cannot or is not allowed to go to the US. I think he was stressing it a little bit too much on that point. I don't know. I don't see the reason why. But besides that, I ironically, these kind of, you could say, critics like Eric Wall that also can explain their points are actually pushing Hex, pulsechain, and also the community forward, because they motivate you to do better, right? To prove right. So there's one thing to have like haters that only scream scam, but there's another thing if alikes like Eric Wall bring up some arguments, and this just increases the quality. So I respect him for that.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's an important role that people play. Like, if they're not there to experience the gains of Hex, like at least they should contribute by like giving good debate, so that it gives people a chance to, challenge what they think, update their thoughts, articulate, what they believe and what they've observed. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely healthy that there's a never-ending cast of critics because how else can the hexagons like sharpen their understanding and become more persuasive. And so I appreciate that. Some people get kind of upset that people like him and others like take every chance they can to troll on Hex, but I actually think that they're doing important work. If they can't have the gains, they should at least have the Twitter clout.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Eric does a okay job with that. Does a pretty good job with that. What do you think is his spiel actually? I mean, do you think he's a hexagon, or he's just playing a little bit to catch the dip? Or he's honest with that, what he's saying? What do you think?
So I bet he's honest. I don't think maybe he's held or traded Hex at any point, like, because from what I understand, he manages people's funds. So, he may like take on positions here and there. But no, I mean, I think that he missed the boat. I think that he's like, and that's like the problem with a lot of people that have either they're smart or they think they're smart, or people have been telling them that they're smart, is that they when good ideas come to them that they didn't come up with, or like their people didn't come up with, they actually have a hard time latching onto it. And so I think that's probably what happened with him, is that like, him and Richard personally knew each other before Hex even launched. And then when it did, and he was one of the first people to have a discussion about it with him, and he said, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard," and then kind of was against it from the start. That's probably rooted in just like how people that that feel like they're smart, they like reject ideas, like they're not open to new things. And so that it's all rooted in like kind of his opposition is just rooted in like him being a smart guy, and then wanting to give the reason why something isn't going to work. And then now that it's had 2.5 years of performance where we can see like who was right and who's wrong. It's rather than like kind of walk. I mean, he kind of has walked some things back, but he's kind of still squarely on that, and maybe he won't ever come around to it, because if you've already hated it this much, and like you've already missed out, it's like, okay, you're just going to keep missing out, and that's okay. Like, you've been missing out already. So I don't know if I ever expect him to become a hexagon, just kind of, of kind of where he starts from. Which is totally okay.
He doesn't want to admit his failure, because it would be a personal admitting of failure and misjudgment. Is that what you think?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's almost like that's like it's a sunk cost by now. It's like
but it would show him a good financial professional if he would be actually capable of steering and turning the ship, so to speak.
Yeah, and maybe if that's his goal, it seems like his goal is to be like an internet personality, and so maybe it's better for his content and hmost engagement to
people actually want to be that, internet personality.
Yeah, that's what most people that appear to be doing real professional work are really just trying to become internet personalities.
Right, but maybe he will be a pulsechain, or at least it sounded like that.
Yeah, maybe, like, especially if that's the category that he was kind of into. And also, I mean, you have to think back, like when him and Richard had that video before Hex launched, and he said this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That was before Richard had really proven himself as being able to create high growth assets. And so now that Hex has already happened, and then there's pulsechain, I didn't hear what his thoughts were on it, and I know that on Twitter he's pretty much said that, like, whatever techno babble reason that it's not going to work, but I'd say he's more likely to become a pulse. I don't know if he'll ever like align with the kind of like culture and the community, like by calling himself a pulsechain or whatever, but I could definitely see him trading Pulse and trying to trade some of those assets. So because by now it's like, what other stuff is even going on in crypto right now other than
exactly. And I want to connect one person to Eric Wall. It's not directly connected, but Ben Armstrong, BitBoy Crypto, he was tweeting this Bitcoin chart and titled it Hex chart and going down, and it is a Ponzi. Like, him engaging with Hex is for me also a sign that he's not completely gatekeeping it anymore. He's engaging with it. He kind of admitting it that it's a thing. It's been live for almost 3 years flawlessly. Do you guys also see it like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really follow what he really does, but I do know that he was like, someone had given him some Hex on stream, and that Hex he ended up cashing out for like, I thought like $30,000 or something.
It was even 60, if I remember.
Okay, yeah, so huge amount, and I think that people like him are in a tough situation because he's not selling his audience good information. Like, that's not his product. That's not his business. His business is selling ads and like promoting things, and so he's in a tough spot where like you can't just come out and be honest about like, oh, like Hex is the real deal. It's a strong performing asset, gives you the self custody and high yield. It goes after the Bitcoin savings use case, which nothing else goes after. And it has, and then on top of that, kind of all these other things, like the Pulse chain launch and just things like Maximus and Hedging. So it has kind of all these things going for it, but he can't really talk about that because, one, like, no one from our team, no one in Hex or Pulse chain is paying him, and so he's not going to talk about it because he can't like dilute the value of his ad space by just talking about things that aren't paying him, because then his real customers won't pay him. And so people like that they're kind of in that situation where it's hard for them to like talk about it and maintain their business as a advertiser. But I do, I mean, from the start, I always kind of knew that he in particular he liked it, but he just was in a tough spot where he couldn't really talk about it. And then I think now that like, I mean, and this will continue to happen just as Hex continues to grow older and have more of a track record. It'll be harder to hate on it. Like, it used to be easy to hate on Hex, but now it's a little bit harder.
And his inner conflict will continue to be hard for him.
Yeah, regarding BitBoy, also we have to admit, I think first of all, it's one of the biggest shows out there on YouTube, and I think they have a couple of formats or channels. And Richard Hart has been regularly a guest on the discussion channel, I think, where they invite like 4 guests. So as you said, Dipcatcher, there's no reason for them to invite Richard or to promote Hex, right? Because they don't get paid by the Hex community or by Richard, and maybe they don't have backs either. But still, they invited him. So I think they did more for Hex than other YouTubers that completely ignore it, right, and don't invite Richard. So I think BitBoy is not that bad.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, the fact that he's tweeting about Hex is like the gates opening even like a small angle, and
absolutely.
And
cool.
Dipcatcher, One question, because in Stockholm they were also filming for the movie Highest of Stake. Can I ask you for your opinion about that and what's going on with the cars and everything? Just how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's like a pretty well produced thing. Like they look like they're like a real legit film crew, and they're getting good content. You know, as far as like the cars and all those different like props and stuff, like I don't really care at all. Like I'm not so into like luxury cars. But I understand that other people are and other people like that. So, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think kind of what Richard really is trying to drive and all like in all that. I feel like it's kind of like this like multi-level like statement that he's made. It's almost like I think what the statement that he's really making and kind of all this like wealth flexing is, it's not like to the Hex people and it's not even to new users. I think it's actually to like the rest of crypto who like hated on them or hated on him and like they're down bad. And here he is with a bunch of cash, like indicating that he's not like losing a bunch of, not experiencing drawdowns on crypto. Like he's in non-crypto asset. So I think it's like more so than the like, trying to get attention to attract new users. I think it's more to like flex on the crypto people that hated on him, and because it's like, and I think he's even stated it before, like, talking about how his Rolex, since he's bought his Rolexes, they've outperformed Bitcoin. And, and probably with the, just like the state of, where used cars are now worth more than sticker price. It's like those things are just going up from inflation and, while the cryptos are going down. And so him flexing that he has those things kind of like, it's like how people on Twitter, like they flex on how good their, when people like post screenshots of their like trade ROI, like they'll post like their whatever position, like they did like a long position and it's up like, 1,000% with like 10x leverage. It's kind of like that, just like flexing your trade. It's like, he's not there like flexing like Bitcoin or ETH. He's there flexing like Rolexes, and so I think it's more about that than kind of like the user onboarding.
And also marketing goes in both directions. So I think some of the influencers actually took the bait, right? So even though they are claiming or they are stating that Hex is a scam and look, Richard looks scammy with all the luxury cards, but they actually talk about it, right? So some people from their network may notice Hex in that way. First of all, being accused being a scam, but later on they may do their own research and find out that it's not a scam. So it's ironically it's kind of working this showing off, right, with the cars and everything.
Absolutely. And it's also a big theme of the movie, probably the whole poor upcoming, but then he made it now flexing on the haters. The haters been attacking him for a big while and now he's shoving into their faces. Yeah, it will be interesting. Dipcatcher, you said awesome professional people behind it. I really like the director who did the interview with Richard Hart. I thought he had a great energy. And yeah, director made a good impression on me. So we will be looking forward for that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they know what they're doing. And so hopefully it gets really wide distribution. Like, I don't know what their strategy is for getting it like on Netflix or Hulu or Peacock or any of these other.
Yeah, it could go viral on Netflix. This whole poor upbringing to now mega rich and all these cars, over the top crazy. It's like people will be like, oh, it's this new Netflix thing. Did you see it? Crypto, totally crazy bananas. Like, I think that's the goal, to make it like really viral because it's so over the top, and that would be great, honestly.
Yeah, I think it has the potential for that.
Yeah, there was another documentary about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin on Netflix. I watched it recently. It was about the co-founder of Quadriga X who died on a world tour, and he was apparently the only one that had access to the private keys of the cold wallet of the exchange. So all the users got basically were screwed, right? Did you watch that guys?
I didn't watch that, but I listened to I think Kraken, the exchange Kraken, they put out like a whole podcast series on it, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Like it's just like a crazy story, and that was right around the time that Hex launched, because I remember it was like if you remember Trace Mayer, he's like a kind of famous Bitcoin spokesperson. He used to organize this thing called Proof of Keys, where every year on the so January 9th, like the Bitcoin launch day anniversary, he would organize a Proof of Keys event where everybody just withdraws all their funds from the exchanges as a test on the exchanges to see if they actually have the money. And so it was right around that time where people were like withdrawing a bunch of funds, and then I think that that was putting pressure on Quadriga, and then they kind of had to scramble, and the end result was the guy. I think that there wasn't anything like nefarious about his death. Like I actually do think he was like really ill, but just like the whole, I think they all knew that he was really sick and potentially going to die, and I thought that they kind of just used that as like an out. But it was pretty crazy that while they were operating that exchange, they were the user funds were being directly deposited onto BitMEX, and the person Gerald Cotton and some other guy, they were literally trading customer funds with leverage on BitMEX, trying to make up for previous funds that they had lost. Like it was a whole mess. And then it turns out the guy who was his partner in that got some new alias, and he started he was like the CFO of this thing called Olympus DAO, or like Wonderland. No, it was like Time or Wonderland, or one of those things. It was like one of these like DeFi things, and it like came to light that he was involved in that, and so it's just like where he had this guy had sole custody of this entire DAO treasury, which is hilarious because like compare it to like Maximus, where like I have no control over the treasury. Like nobody does. It's just like there's just like this whole other corner of DeFi where they're totally
real DeFi.
They're like we're real DeFi. There's like this whole class of fake DeFi where they're totally okay with the private keys to a treasury being held, one, just by anybody, and two, by a person who is involved in the Quadriga CX exchange. Like,
yeah, the tragedy is if people don't get it, if they cannot overlook this topic and cannot see the differences, I think that's a tragedy. But you mentioned Maximus, you also have it in your name, smart contract-based hex pooling for max length stakes. We want to get deeper into that, and we had questions even in our last stream, but Dipcatcher, may I ask you to give a very short elevator pitch? What is it, like from the creator itself?
Or maybe from the beginning, Dipcatcher, if you don't mind, can you first of all elaborate the problem or the opportunity that is out there, which is captured by Maximus? So if you understand what I mean.
The benefits that will come from it.
Yeah. So Maximus is it's a community-owned max-length hex stake. So between April 15th and May 1st, there was a minting phase where people could mint one maxi per one hex deposited into the contract. And when that minting phase ended, all of that hex was entered into a single giant max length stake. It was about 294 million hex. And then that maxi token is fully tradable, fully liquid. You can do anything you want with it. And then after the stake ends, the token is redeemable for the hex principal plus the hex yield plus the hedgerin that was accrued during that time as well. And so the Maxi is a token backed by a max length hex stake. And so the main problem that I set out to solve in creating it was not so much about the liquidity aspect, which like the liquidity is a major benefit. The main problem I was solving was actually gas, because the problem with staking on your own is that, you know, you're paying the gas to calculate the interest, and calculating the interest on the max length stake is the most expensive gas operation for in the whole Hex staking contract, because it has to calculate over 5,555 days what the earnings are. And so if you, there's a site called hexnoob.com that has a gas estimator. You don't know what the gas prices are going to be in the future, but you can be pretty certain about the number of units of gas that it's going to cost. And
you said like 1 ETH. How do you come to that calculation?
Yeah, so if you just take the current, like, so if here so I go to Etherscan right now. You look at the gas price. Okay, gas is pretty cheap right now, 25 GWay. And then you go to hexnoob.com. And so Hexnoob has a calculator, end stake gas calculator. I'm looking at it right now. So you put in the stake length is 5555, and then so my estimation of 1 ETH is when it's about 75 GWay, when the gas is about 75 GWay. So that's like, you know, it starts feeling like gas prices are getting really bad when it's about like 200. 75 is still pretty high. Like if the gas price was 75 GWay, then the cost on Uniswap would be like $25. And so, you know, so like that's not even really that high. And so if the gas is 75 GWay per unit of gas, it would come out to about 1 ETH per, you know, for ending a max length stake. And so you don't know what it's going to be. You know, it certainly could go down, but I really don't expect it to, because like, why would it? Like, you know, if it, you should, if the gas price is driven by, there's a finite amount of blocks that you can log data to, and potentially infinite amount of demand for logging data to those blocks, the gas prices could get even more expensive, especially in 15 years. Cause like every time there's like a new hype cycle, the gas prices, they go up because there's like a whole new class of users. And if that new class of users are doing things that have really high time preference, meaning they need to get their transactions in ASAP, where they're willing to bid the price up and to get priority processing, that can really drive the gas up. You know, because like it's been really high. You know, it first got really high because of all the DeFi yield farming stuff, and then it got really high again because of the NFT stuff. And who knows what in 15 years from now, who knows what type of crazy, you know, wacky stuff that the children being born today, who knows what kind of wacky stuff they're going to be speculating on in 15 years. It's going to be driving the gas price up. And so we like with Maximus, we come in with a baseline assumption that gas on both Ethereum and pulsechain is only going to be more expensive than it is today. And so we solve for that high gas problem by consolidating all the stakes into one. So rather than everybody each ending their own max length stake and paying that same high gas fee per person, you just do it once, and then the redemption is cheap as far as gas goes. So it has a potential to save tens of millions of dollars of gas. And that's tens of millions of dollars that are kept in the Hex economy instead of having to be like swapped into ETH so that you can pay your gas for ending your stake.
Yeah, I have a question there, Dipcatcher. Let's say like 100 people do now a normal Quattro Cinco. So by this calculation, in 15 years, they would all have to pay 1 ETH. So just 100 ETH paid just for them to end them. In Maximus, they would not have to pay that. But who pays in Maximus for the ETH? Does it get away from the Hex pool when minted Maximus, or is it just provided by you, the developers? And if I assume that the Hex is the Hex stake is at the end end staked automatically, is the ETH already provided for that, or how does it work?
No, it's not. So the function that ends the stake, it can be run by anybody. So whoever runs it on behalf of the contract, they pay the gas, and there's no like built-in recompensation. There's no built-in anything for that. It's purely if someone wants to run it, they will. But the way the contract was designed, it records who paid the gas to end the stake. And so somebody could create a contract external from Maximus, which is like a gas pool contract, where it's programmed to allow whichever address is in the, whichever address is marked as being the one that ended the stake, they can withdraw all the contents of that address. So we didn't build in anything for ending the stake right now. But over time, especially as it gets closer to end, I could see people pooling and building like a trustless gas pooling contract, which would incentivize somebody to run that.
And it's a minor disadvantage, you could say, right? It's a one end stake function that you have to call. So it's not the end of the world, I would say, right? Like somebody, I think there's minimum one person that would run it,
Mm-hmm.
Just for the
yeah, like probably anyone in the top 100 of Maxi will probably be able to afford it anyways. Just outright.
They have interest in it.
Right.
Yeah, but then say it's not happening. But like the gas pooling, even if the pool only like it doesn't need to raise all the money to end the stake. Like it's just kind of whatever amount then like causes someone to take action on it. Because it can only raise like half of the total amount, and then once it's half, then someone who really wants that stake to end, they're like, okay, well, it's going to only cost me half of this, so might as well just do it. So and that was done very specifically because like for that low gas value proposition, I didn't want to add any type of gas liability to anybody, like where no individual actually has the responsibility to end it, meaning that no individual is responsible for paying any gas to end the stake. So, because that enables it to be, for a large class of users, they have 100% gas savings because they're not paying anything.
Okay. And when the end stake function is called, where do the hex go? It goes to the Maximus contract where they can be redeemed from the participants.
Yep, exactly. It just sits in the Maximus contract address.
Okay. And this is completely trustless. Yeah, it checks for the address that that contributed to the minting phase.
No. So it's not related to the minting, like which address minted it. It's just if you have the Maxi token, you can redeem it. And so when you redeem it, the Maxi token gets burned.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not based on who minted it. It's just based on who has the Maxi at the end. Right.
And Dipcatcher, remind me, there was one minting phase. When is the next one? Or will there be a second one?
So we are working on some future things. So and I said on my Twitter that I was going to start by saying what it isn't first. We're probably not going to roll out another max length stake one just yet. There's kind of a whole spectrum of these like different like stake pooling strategies that will really work. And so I'm not going to say what the next stake is that we're going to do, but this one is meant to be kind of like the baseline and like kind of like the base of the entire kind of Maximus stake pooling ecosystem. So there will be future launches.
With different tokens, right? Because they cannot be interchangeable.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be separate but interoperable. And It could be sooner than many people think. If I wasn't, I'm about to get married. If I wasn't about to be married and be kind of going on a vacation, it'd probably be in the next couple weeks. But I'm about to be stepping away for a little bit, for a couple weeks. But yeah, it's we're really trying to build out this ecosystem. We've seen there's lots of demand for like pooled hex staking, and it has huge benefits for the end user. And so we're trying to kind of tackle this whole area. And so the first thing that we're going to launch is going to be kind of like a base for all of, I'm not going to say what it is, what the stake's going to be like, but it's just going to be kind of like a base for all future maximum.
What do you mean by base dip catcher? So I understand the variable, or the variable could be the length of the stake, yeah, but what do you mean by base?
Yeah, so like how you would measure the performance of every other one. Like, so more on that soon. We want to be fair and release all information all at once. But
fair enough.
Yeah, we should have some more information pretty soon, and
cool.
And everything's kind of rooted in the same contract, so it's like
Yeah, I have a few more questions there, Dip Catcher. With the first one, you obviously gained the 200% bonus with the max length stake, and I assume you also hit the 150 million hex for the biggest, bigger pay better bonus, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How many people did participate, and how many hex was given to the contract to mint Maximus?
There were 5,330 participants and about 294 million hex.
Okay, wow. So almost double the minimum required for max bonus, yeah?
Yep. Yeah, that's
awesome.
pretty good.
And a piece of thought, like at the end you said, I can burn my Maximus basically to retrieve the hex plus the Hedron plus the bonuses it got, and maybe in 15 years, maybe even more things that will come on the way. But as a piece of thought, I could basically never burn my Maximus and keep trading with Maximus as a secondary to all the hex and Hedron that is behind it. Is that something you ever thought about?
So you mean like never redeem it and just hold the maxi forever?
Not like never, but like not redeem it like right away. You can
there's no time limit, and it's always going to be backed by, because the way it works is when the stake ends, the contract calculates how much hex is in the contract and how much hedron is in there, and it calculates something called the redemption rate, and then that tells you how many hex or how many hedron you get per maxi that you burn, and that number stays there forever. So there's no rush to even redeem ever. And from there, it's kind of like the maxi is kind of like a hex and a hedron backed stablecoin, because it's just like always redeemable. And you could sell it, and then whoever bought it could redeem it.
Right.
And so
And speaking of the Hedron, I assume Hedron will be minted on the second last day of the stake, yeah, to get the most.
So we made it so it can be minted any day throughout, and that is because there may be times where there's like those AMR bonuses or whatever where you get more. And so the original version, it only allowed the hedron to be minted on that second to last day, but you can mint as you go, and so it can actually be minted at any time. But it's only
also through the smart contract, yeah, calling a function, because I would need the private key of the address holding the max stake.
Yeah, so you call the function that there's a function called mint hedron in the Maximus contract, and that Maximus contract it calls the hedron contract from the Maximus contract address, and it says mint native. So you don't need the key. There's no private like that. That's like there's no such thing as a private key to a smart contract address. Like the private key is specific to it's called an account address. So there's no private key, and anyone can run it at any time.
And the guy calling it needs to provide the ETH for gas fee, yeah?
Yep.
Whoever so I would be grateful, like someone's always minting it, even though it probably only needs to be done one time at the end. Like people will do it, and I'll be like, oh, okay, thank you, you paid for it, you did it.
It happens.
It's interesting.
Happens all the time, and like I'm looking right now. Well, I guess it doesn't really happen too much. Let's see. I'm gonna search for mint Hedron. I'm gonna see how many times it's been run.
Yeah, but that's interesting because I always thought it's already coded and it will perform automatically. It's interesting that it can't be called as a function in the smart contract.
Yeah, well, because nothing in smart contracts runs automatically. You have to deliberately cause anything to happen. And so what it does, like just in general, how it works is that rather than like automatically calling something when like a certain day passes or something, it makes it so that that function is able to be called after some period of time. And so then someone has to go in and do it. There are tools that actually let you like pre-schedule transactions. And that's actually what I use to start the stake. There's a tool that I used that enabled me to pretty much like pre-authorize a gas transaction that would start the stake. And I had it triggered to go off like right as soon as it was eligible to do it. So there are ways to kind of like make it automated, but yeah, it's always someone running that function. And so we've seen the mint Hedron function's been run 6 times in the last so Maxi's been around for about 40 days. People have run it 6 times. I don't know why anyone runs it at all.
Yeah, but maybe it's to try it out, and I'm with you on that it's probably safer and better operation to have it done as a function rather than a set time frame, and then in 10 years you don't know what will be in 5 years. So you always have the option to have it be run rather than on that time it will be run.
Yeah, and I didn't want to like add complexity to the contract by building in all types of rules about when it can be run and when it can't be run. So just making it always runnable. And then, if that means that we lose out on a little bit of Hedron because we would have got more if there was one of these AMR bonuses, who really cares? It's we're thankful that we're getting anything anyways. So,
right.
Maxing that out doesn't really matter to us.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
The premium discount cycle thing pulled up on the screen.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that next. At first I actually thought it will go parallel to the Hex line with a small offset, and the offset being the benefit of having not to pay fees at the end and being basically you can trade it, the coin. But you're saying it will probably wave around the treasury value of the big stake. Can you explain it?
Yeah, I mean it's always unpredictable what the price is going to be because that's always driven by who's buying and who's selling in that moment. But what we've seen unfold is that there's a pretty liquid market. There's there's about 5.1 million Hex in the liquidity pool and 2.4 million Maxi in the liquidity pool. So, there is a lot of the volume in the last 24 hours, it was like 330K. For a while, it was up like around $1 million of volume a day. And so there's a lot of trading that's going on. And then it's pretty crazy in one of my streams, I had done a whole thing kind of showing how you could think about the future earnings. And what it really is it's the market pricing in all the future benefits and then discounting all the risks. And so what we're seeing right now, because right now the Maxi price is 1.62 Hex. whereas each maxi as of right now is backed by about like 1.01 hex. And so, you know, if you consider the premium to be based on the current value, like as shown in that chart, then, you know, it's like a 60% premium right now. But what that really means is just that the market is pricing in, you know, about 2 years of interest, because it earns about 31% per year. And so if the market's pricing in 1.62 hex, then maybe that just means that the market is pretty certain that over the next 2 years that the average daily payout per T share is going to be roughly similar to what it is today. And so that's kind of how I view this premium, is just like, it's pricing in the hex that the market is pretty certain is going to be there. Because like when you look at apphex.win and you look at that daily payout per T share chart, you know, it's all over the place with the like penalties, but it averages around to, you know, so like 6.1 or 6.2 right now. And it actually takes a lot of time and money to move that number. So you can be pretty certain that it's going to be paying out around 6.2 for the next, you know, short period of time. And so that's kind of what I see happening right now, is just that like the market's just pricing in that future earning. But it's still under, like, based on the estimate, like if you on our dashboard on the Maximus site, there's a calculator in there at the bottom. Yeah, you might have to refresh. So that calculator, yeah, you have to refresh the page. Yeah. That calculator down there at the bottom, it is, you know, like I use the estimate that like the current daily payout is going to remain constant, and then what it's going to be at the end. So like if with like very reasonable conservative estimates, each maxi could be worth about 6 hex at the end. And so, you know, it's not like even though the premium seems high, being 60%, the premium really isn't out. Like it's not even in like crazy mode yet. Like there's times of truly crazed premium, and we're really not there yet. It's pretty, like, it's basically the market's just pricing in 2 years of earnings, and that's about it. So,
right.
You
That's
know,
true. Because the earnings are based on the smart contract, right, of Hex. So they're quite certain, and I would even exclude smart contract risk because it's proven itself for the last 2.5 years. So actually, I would rather classify it as a discount, the maxi price at the moment. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. It all depends on what you consider the baseline.
Right.
Like, do you consider the baseline, you know, the minted hex, so that 1-to-1 rate, or do you consider the baseline, you know, some estimate of all the future earnings, you know? And so it kind of comes down to just what you consider to be the baseline.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like, you know, it's even though, like, if you were to start a 15-year stake today, you would get more, you get more T shares doing that, but the T shares that you are getting, they're not liquid, so you don't have any option to sell. And then, you know, there are other benefits that may come with holding Maximus that you don't get, and then also you're paying for that gas on your own. So even though like the cost per T share is a little bit higher, there's those other benefits that people are pricing in, and so even though, you know, so people are willing to pay more maxi per hex than what it's backed by because of those other benefits. And so that to me is pretty, and I think that'll only continue because that liquidity value proposition only gets better over time. You know, because like right now it's like, okay, you could have just, if you really needed cash, you probably could have just held the maxi or you could have held the hex that you minted with maxi a couple weeks ago. And, you know, it's basically the same thing. But in like 5 years from now, that liquidity could be a massive benefit because people have forgotten about the hex that they had minted with and all that. So I think over time that liquidity value proposition goes up, and and it'll become more clear what the gas is going to be. So if gas is going to be high, that can drive the price up, you know. But also at that time, so much more of the earnings will have already been experienced, and then it becomes more certain what it's going to end at the end. So maybe there's like less room for like painting blue sky and rainbows into the price, it's like you can't, like, it'll be harder for the market to justify super high future earnings if it's like pretty clear what it's going to be. And that happens as the stake ages. So, there's kind of a lot of things that are impacting the price, but yeah, it's been pretty wild to watch, and really strong sign that it's commanding that premium right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. There's more to it than one may think, right? So it's great that you elaborated on these points that Misha asked.
One last thought game here. The average daily payout per t-shirt in Hex is also dependent from what other people in the system are doing, their behavior. Like, it could go up, it could go down, you know what I mean? A lot of people think because Hex general is inflating with 3-point-something% that it will go up throughout the years, the daily payout in Hex. My belief is that the more higher the payout per day in Hex goes, the more I leverage on the t-shirt bonus through max staking with Maximus. So Maximus would be even more valuable the more the Hex payout goes up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, dude, spot on. Because it, like, Maxi, you see right there, it has 42,000 T-shares. It's like the 16th
Crazy.
largest shark. So I think it's like in the top 30 of all, like, Hex.
Do you have it in your staker app, like only to watch this one?
Yeah, literally, I do. What's crazy
Nice.
about that? My mental health has drastically, and just like my productivity and like my physical health and just like everything about my life has actually improved since I switched out my own addresses on Staker app with the Maximus one. And now that I just like don't even think to check how much my own is worth, I feel like my life has actually drastically improved.
Nice.
It's just way less distracting. But yeah, I'm looking at right now, we're shark number 16. So that puts us at the 30th largest, T shareholder. And over time, we'll probably become number one unless, we roll out other larger pools. But just because everyone who's above us, they once started earlier, and so those t-shirts will expire before ours do. And then because the price is so much higher than it used to be, it's harder to get that level. So you pretty much already have to have that amount to compete. And so, but yeah, I mean, those T-shares, as that daily payout per share goes up, because then that increases the potential future earnings of the stake, and then that can make it more attractive for people to buy Maxi. But yeah, I mean, to kind of touch on your point about kind of how that number moves, you're right in saying that the daily payout per T-share, it has like a baseline growth factor of 3.69% per year, just because the daily payout per T-share is every day's inflation. So it's like 0.01%. So like 300 or 3.69% divided by 364 days. So that's like the daily inflation. And so that daily inflation is the percent of all of the Hex that's ever been minted. And so just as the total supply grows every day, and annually, that 3.6, it's actually higher than 3.69% because of the big payday payouts that are happening. But it's, it has that baseline growth of 3.69% per year.
And
but
that is safe, like without including the behavior of other participants. That is already safe that it will happen.
Yeah, well, so it's not safe. It's if no one did anything, if like all stakes that were staked just stayed staked, and no one who had liquid Hex started staking, it would remain constant. But it's that 3.69% is kind of like the baseline, but then it's driven down by people either taking liquid Hex that wasn't staked and staking that, or taking Hex that is becoming unstaked and then staking and then restaking it for longer to make more T-shares. And so I expect the staking activity to increase over time. And so I actually think that, and so I like to consider the average daily payout per T-share estimate to be exactly what it is today, because it actually that actually bakes in a couple nice assumptions, like you know that the 3.69% baseline growth is happening, but also it's reasonable to expect that the size of the staker class averages out to grow by 3.69% per year. Like that would be really modest growth, and that's actually like a pretty fair assumption that that like new stakers come in 3.69% faster than old stakers leave. And so under that circumstance, then the average daily payout per T-share would remain constant throughout the whole time. And so I actually think
Intuitively, I would say it's even higher than the 3.6, which means the payout per T-share would drop, like if you get so much more stakers.
Yeah, but the thing that is, I guess, helping that payout go up is that as stakes end, because the T-share rate always goes up, and because a lot the stakes that mainly drive the T-share rate going up are the very, very early stakes, and because like on big payday the T-share rate ratcheted up like 40%, it is a lot like it is harder to kind of just like reclaim those T-shares,
Right.
but if like, so right now it's what, like day like 900 or something, so that means that there's stakes that are 900 days old, and okay, it's 880, so there's stakes that are 880 days old that are, or no, what day is it? Hex day is probably, yeah, so it's in the 900s probably. So like there's 900 day old stakes that are ending, and in order for that person to reclaim all of their T-shares, they have to take all their principal and all their yield and roll that into another at least 900 day stake. Or if they want to cash some out and claim the same T-shares, say they cash out 10%, they now need to make up for those T-shares by staking longer so that they would get 10% more T-shares. And so it kind of pressures them to stake for longer. And so that's like the number that I am looking at all the time is like, what's that T-share replenishment rate? Like as T-shares end, what happens next? Do those T-shares get replenished by restaking, or do they, not get replenished and just get sold and they kind of put in the mix there? So that's probably the number to watch in trying to figure out what that payout per T-share is going to be, is at what rate do the Genesis T-shares, so like pre-big payday T-shares, at what rate do they replenish themselves?
That will be big. And you made a good point, the T-share rate only going up, because even if we get more stakers that will even stake and get T-shares and dropping the payout by that, even if we get more stakers than 3.6%, inflation of general stakers, but average people will come with $1,000, let's say, but T-share rate goes up, so they will get less and less T-shares or B-shares. So that all again speaks for the increase of Hex payout per T-share.
Yeah, you're spot on.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of stuff that goes into it, so you all have to consider that.
Yeah, and these things will take a long time to play out. It's like we're sitting here talking. It's pretty funny because in crypto, most people are like trying to like get rich quick and like think about like, oh, what's the price going to do in the next 5 minutes? Meanwhile, we're here talking about how's this number going to change over 15 years.
And we were even repeating basic things because it's so much and so many variables to consider that we even have to go through the basic things so that we can then make assumptions. And it's bigger than just
the rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. No, but it's great that we had you here today, Dipcatcher. So you also explained the very basics, the most important ones to our audience, and we are looking forward to the second, you could say, product, Maximus product, because you said it will be a bit different than the first one. So yeah, we are looking forward to hear more about it once
Absolutely.
you're coming back from your trip. And congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, can't wait to share more. And when all that starts coming to light, I'll definitely have to hop back on your guys' channel.
Yeah, you will be world's first guest for a third time.
There we go. It's
Awesome,
so funny.
man.
I just have a funny story about the last time we streamed. Because I think we had our cameras on, and I got off the stream, but then I was still listening to what you guys were saying in the studio. And I forgot to turn my camera off, and I was like getting ready for the day. So there was totally, I don't know if I was live or if anyone saw, but I was literally I was literally naked forgetting my camera was on, changing in my room after I got off the stream with you guys.
No,
when
I
you guys
didn't
were
see
still
it.
streaming. So hopefully no one had to witness that.
Yeah, no, but now everybody goes back to Hex Grassroots YouTube channel and looks for the hot pictures.
Yeah, but
Awesome, man.
it's
Yeah,
cool.
thank you very much, Dipcatcher. As always, I said it, you're always calm, collected, explaining well. Thank you so much. And it's been a great stream once again. And I would absolutely love to have you for a third time as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome.
All right.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you everyone who joined us in the chat and watching this. And go follow Meister Hex and Hex Misha on Twitter. Like and subscribe on YouTube. My Twitter is Tanto Nomini. My YouTube is Dipcatcher. Yeah, so thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Good luck. And bye-bye.
All right, guys. This was Hex Grassroots number 23 with our already regular guest, you could almost say, Dipcatcher from Maximus. And how we explained in detail Maximus, what it is about is to pool into a DAO that creates the maximum length stakes in Hex. So you get the not only the longer pays better bonus, but also the bigger pays better bonus, which tops in at 150 million Hex. And you receive a Maxi token, which is completely liquid. So it solves the liquidity problem. It's important to highlight that Maximus is completely trustless. And it also saves on the gas fees, as end staking, especially longer stakes, where the calculation is longer because every day of the stake has to be counted, is just more gas efficient than if everybody pools together. So these are the advantages of Maximus stake. The first minting phase happened last month, but there's more to come, as Dipcatcher said. So stay tuned for more information. Thank you very much for joining today, and we are looking forward to see you next time as well.
Good evening and goodbye. Thank you.